Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be talking all about minimalism today. And we've got a really interesting lineup of sources for you.
Yeah, we've got a lot of YouTubers.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at videos from Nick Houchen, who's kind of like a veteran minimalist.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for a long time, and he's going to be sharing like 10 lessons from 10 years
Wow.
of living this lifestyle. We're going to have Gabe Bolt, who's all about like practical minimalism, giving you rules that actually changed his life.
I like that.
So it's going to be a lot of like actionable stuff. And then we've got Teodora Maria. She's doing this interesting thing where she's like, what I'm not buying in 2025.
Okay.
So it's kind of like this blend of minimalism, but also budgeting.
Interesting.
We're going to take a peek into how someone actually lives this way with Jessica Rothley's Minimalist House Tour.
Oh, cool.
And then we're going to zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture with the Minimalists documentary, which is, looking at the philosophy and the impact and even some of the criticism of minimalism.
Okay, yeah. Got to get all sides.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about like decluttering your closet. We're going to go deep. We're going to be looking at the psychological effects,
I like it.
the societal effects, like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, because it is kind of this movement, right? It's not just about stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's get into it. One of the things I always struggle with is like, what even is minimalism, right? Like, what are we even talking about here?
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up. They see these like Instagram pictures of these perfectly curated like white spaces.
Oh, yeah.
And they think that's what it is, but it's so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like a good place to start is with Nick Houchen. He actually defines minimalism as a tool, not a religion.
Okay, a tool.
Which I think is really important because it takes the pressure off, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you have to adhere to these strict rules. It's about using minimalism to achieve your own goals.
Right. Like a hammer or something.
Exactly. So if your goal is to declutter your house, you can use minimalism to do that. If your goal is to simplify your finances, you can use minimalism to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's more about like intentionality than just like getting rid of stuff.
Yeah, it's about being intentional with your life, your time, your energy, your resources. It's about focusing on what truly matters to you and letting go of the rest.
Okay, I like that. So it's not necessarily about living with like the bare minimum.
No, not at all.
Mm.
It's about finding what works for you and what brings you joy.
Okay. And speaking of joy, Gabe Bolt talks a lot about the mental benefits of minimalism.
Oh, yeah. He makes this really interesting point about how stuff can actually own you.
Own you, yeah. How's that?
Yeah, it's like you start accumulating all these things, and then suddenly you need a bigger house to store them all, a bigger car to transport them. You're working longer hours to pay for it all.
Yeah.
And it's like your stuff is dictating how you live your life.
Oh, wow.
Minimalism is about breaking free from that cycle and creating space for what truly matters.
And he has that kind of jarring analogy of like, your house is on fire, what do you grab?
Yeah, the house on fire thought experiment.
Yeah.
It really makes you confront your attachment to your possessions, right?
Right.
If your house was on fire, what would you actually run back in to save? Would it be your phone? Your photo albums?
Mm.
Or are you secretly relieved to be free of all that stuff?
It makes you think.
It does.
And I think one of the things that keeps people from embracing minimalism is this idea that it's like a one-time thing, right? Like you declutter your house and then you're done.
Yeah, it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
Houchen actually talks about how minimalism is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah. A journey.
It's something that evolves as you evolve. He's moved, he's gotten married, he's gone through all sorts of life changes. And his approach to minimalism has changed right along with him.
So it's not about achieving some perfect state of minimalism.
No, it's about finding what works for you at different stages of your life and being open to change. And the good news is you probably won't even regret getting rid of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, Nick says in 10 years of minimalism, he's only regretted letting go of like 5 things.
5 things? Wow.
That's it.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot less anxious about decluttering.
Right. And Gabe Bolt actually talks about riding the waves of minimalism.
Riding the waves. Okay.
Some days you're going to be super motivated to declutter your entire house.
Right.
Other days you're just going to want to focus on simplifying your digital life.
I feel that.
It's all about finding what works for you in the moment and making progress, not striving for perfection.
Yeah, riding the waves. Because some days it feels like you're drowning in stuff.
Exactly. So what area of your life do you feel like is the most cluttered right now?
Ooh, good question.
Is it your physical space,
Yeah.
your schedule, your digital life? Identifying that could be the first step in your minimalist journey.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. But first, let's talk about the practical side of things. Can minimalism actually save you money and time?
Oh, absolutely. And Gabe Bolt has this whole concept of quiet wealth that really gets at this.
Quiet wealth. Okay. What's that?
It's basically the idea that you can create wealth, not just by accumulating more stuff, but by prioritizing experiences and memories.
So instead of buying a bigger TV, you invest in a weekend getaway with your family.
Exactly. Or instead of buying a new outfit, you sign up for that cooking class you've always wanted to take. It's about investing in things that bring you lasting joy and fulfillment rather than fleeting material possessions.
I love that because experiences also tend to create better memories, right? Like, you remember that trip you took or that class you took more than you remember that shirt you bought.
Totally.
Yeah.
And those memories don't take up any physical space.
That's a good point.
And you don't have to dust them.
Yeah, exactly. So minimalism isn't just about, like, getting rid of stuff. It's also about being more intentional with your spending.
Right. And Theodora Maria actually has a really practical tool for this. Her no-buy list.
A no-buy list?
Yeah.
What is that?
She basically made a list of things that she's not going to buy in 2025.
Oh, interesting.
And it's not like she's depriving herself. It's just about being mindful. Like, she decided she's not going to buy any takeout coffee this year.
Oh, that's tough.
But she's going to invest in a nice coffee maker at home. So she's still getting her coffee fix, but she's doing it in a way that aligns with her value.
And probably saving a lot of money in the process.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of minimalism. It's not about being cheap. It's about being mindful. It's about asking yourself, do I need this? Or do I just want this?
And do I want it because I actually want it or because I'm comparing myself to someone else?
That's a great point. We haven't even gotten into the comparison trap yet.
Oh, yeah, the comparison trap. That's a big one.
It's a huge joy killer.
It is.
And it's so easy to fall into, especially with social media. We're constantly bombarded with images of other people's seemingly perfect lives.
Right.
Their perfect homes, their perfect bodies, their perfect vacations.
And you just feel bad about yourself.
Totally. And it's all an illusion.
It is. So how does minimalism help with that?
Well, minimalism encourages you to define your own values and prioritize what truly matters to you, not what society dictates.
So instead of buying that expensive car just to impress your neighbors, you invest in a family vacation that creates lasting memories.
Exactly. Or instead of buying a bigger house just because everyone else is doing it, you focus on making your current home a sanctuary, a space that reflects your personality and brings you joy.
So it's about creating a life that aligns with your own unique values and aspirations, rather than trying to live up to someone else's expectations.
Exactly. And that can lead to a much deeper sense of contentment and satisfaction.
It's about finding that internal validation instead of always looking for it externally.
Exactly.
I like that. And that actually reminds me of Dan Harris's story in the Minimalists documentary. He talks about how minimalism helped him create the mental space he needed to cultivate a regular meditation practice.
Right. And meditation in turn brought him greater calm and focus.
And less anxiety and stress.
It's a great example of how simplifying your outer world can lead to profound changes in your inner world.
Yeah, it's all connected, right? Like minimalism, mindfulness, meditation, they're all pointing towards a more intentional and fulfilling way of life.
Totally. But as with everything, there are two sides to every coin. Even our most passionate minimalist sources acknowledge that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right. And Jessica Rothley's house tour actually brings up a really interesting point about that. She actually struggled with viewing her minimalist house as temporary.
Oh, interesting.
Which prevented her from fully investing and making it feel like a true home.
So she was so focused on keeping things minimal that she didn't want to bring in anything that would make it feel too lived in.
Yeah, like she was hesitant to decorate or put up pictures or anything that would make it feel more personal because she was afraid of cluttering the space.
Wow, that's interesting. So it's not just about what you take out of your space, but also about what you choose to keep in.
Exactly. And that brings us to the big question. Is minimalism really for everyone?
That's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into minimalism. Before the break, we were talking about whether minimalism is really for anyone. I mean, for a lot of people, that image of a minimalist is someone who lives alone in a tiny house, only a handful of possessions.
Yeah, that's the stereotype, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, you could tailor it to fit your own life.
Right. And one thing that stuck with me was Nick's comment that you won't even remember the things you declutter.
Oh, yeah. He said he's only regretted getting rid of like 5 things in 10 years.
It's wild, right?
It is. And I think it just speaks to the fact that our minds are so powerful. Like we can hold on to those memories and experiences even when the objects are gone.
It's true. We tend to overestimate how important those objects are. But sometimes the memories are more valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And memories don't take up any physical space.
Right, exactly. So what about sentimental items? You know, the things we hold on to for emotional reasons, even if we don't actually use them.
That's where I think Nick's tip about digitizing sentimental items is really helpful.
Okay, yeah.
Like scanning old photos or letters.
Right.
You can still preserve the memory without keeping the physical object.
That's a great tip, especially for people who are hesitant to part with things.
Yeah, you can create this digital archive of your memories without your house turning into a museum.
Exactly. And it kind of frees up that mental space too, right? Like those memories are safe.
Absolutely. And speaking of mental space, I think we should talk about how minimalism can help us navigate the comparison trap.
Oh, the comparison trap. Gabe calls it a joy killer.
He does, and he's so right.
Yeah. I mean, with social media, it's so easy to fall into that spiral of feeling like we're not enough.
Absolutely. You see everyone else's perfect lives, and it's hard not to compare. But minimalism can really help with that because it's about defining your own WN values.
So instead of buying that expensive car, you invest in a family vacation.
Exactly. It's about creating a life that aligns with your aspirations, not someone else's.
And I think the Minimalist documentary does a really good job of showing this through Dan Harris's story.
Right. Like after his panic attack on live TV, he really started exploring minimalism and meditation.
And he found that they really complemented each other.
Yeah, like minimalism helped him create the mental space he needed to cultivate a regular meditation practice.
Which then brought him more calm, more focus.
It's amazing how those things are all connected.
It is. But, even with all the benefits of minimalism, it's not always easy to actually implement, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you have a family.
Right. I mean, a lot of people think that minimalism is only for single people or people without kids, but that's not true at all.
No, it's not. And Gabe actually talks about how his family has incorporated minimalist principles into their lives.
Like setting boundaries around toys.
Right. And having those conversations about what's important, what brings them joy.
Exactly. It's not about imposing strict rules. It's about making conscious choices together as a family.
And Nick also makes the point that you don't have to convert your partner to minimalism.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like he and his wife have different preferences when it comes to stuff, but they've found a compromise that works for them.
That's so important. It's not about forcing anyone to do anything they don't want to do. It's about finding that middle ground where everyone feels respected.
Exactly. And I think that's a really good reminder that minimalism isn't about perfection. It's about progress.
Right. It's about finding what works for you in your unique circumstances.
Absolutely. And I love how Gabe talks about quiet wealth as a way to approach our finances.
Right. It's not about being cheap. It's about being intentional with your money.
And I think Theodore Maria's no-buy list is such a good example of that.
It is. It's like a concrete way to put that intentionality into practice.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be as extreme as not buying anything for a whole year. Like maybe you just decide to cut back on takeout coffee or impulse purchases.
Whatever works for you. The point is to be more mindful of where your money's going.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the philosophy behind minimalism, but let's get practical. Where do we actually begin? Like, what's a good first step for someone who's feeling overwhelmed?
I think one of the easiest places to start is with decluttering your physical space. And Gabe actually has a great tip. Start small.
Okay, start small.
Don't try to tackle your whole house at once. Pick one drawer, one shelf, one closet.
That's less intimidating.
Right. And if you're struggling to decide what to get rid of, he has this rule called the 20-20 rule.
The 20-20 rule, okay.
If you can replace an item for under $20 in under 20 minutes, let it go.
Oh, I like that.
It kind of takes the pressure off.
It does. And then what about those things you're on the fence about?
He recommends the box method for those.
The box method.
You pack up those items, put them in a box, store it away, and if you haven't needed anything from that box after a few months, you donate the whole thing.
Without even opening it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It often proves that we don't actually need the things we think we need.
That's a good one. What other tips does he have?
He also talks about the importance of a nightly reset.
A nightly reset.
Yeah, like taking a few minutes each evening to tidy up, put things away, prepare for the next day.
Oh, so you're not scrambling in the morning.
Exactly. It can make a huge difference in your overall sense of calm and order.
So it's like setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. Another rule he likes is the have a home rule.
Okay, what's that?
It means that everything in your home should have a designated place where it belongs.
Okay, so no more junk drawer.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier to tidy up when everything has its place.
It's all about creating a system that works for you.
Exactly. And the beauty of these rules is that they're not meant to be rigid. It's about finding what works for you and adapting them to fit your own lifestyle.
Right. Minimalism is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process of refining and adapting our habits to create a life that feels aligned with our values.
And that's what makes it so empowering, right? Because it's not about striving for some idealized version of minimalism. It's about finding what works for you and creating a life that you truly love.
And that might look different for everyone. For some people, it might mean decluttering their entire house. For others, it might be creating a capsule wardrobe or getting rid of one item a day.
Whatever feels good to you.
Right. And remember, we were talking about Gabe's concept of quiet wealth.
Well, yeah, investing in experiences instead of stuff.
Well, he also encourages us to apply the 90-10 rule to our wardrobes.
90-10, okay.
Only keep the clothes you absolutely love and wear all the time. Everything else can go.
So like a capsule wardrobe.
Exactly. It eliminates decision fatigue.
Yeah, you never stand in front of your closet wondering what to wear.
And it forces you to be more mindful about your purchases. Like, do you really need another black t-shirt?
Or are you just buying it because it's on sale?
Exactly. It's about breaking those patterns of mindless consumption.
But even if we declutter our homes and simplify our wardrobes, minimalism is more than just stuff, right? It's about simplifying all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest challenges is maintaining that sense of simplicity over time.
Yeah, like it's one thing to declutter, but how do you keep the clutter from coming back?
That's where creating systems and habits comes in.
Okay, systems and habits.
Gabe's a big advocate for this. He has a whole bunch of rules that he uses to maintain a minimalist lifestyle, like the 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule. What's that?
If something takes less than 2 minutes to do, just do it right away.
Okay, so don't procrastinate on the small stuff.
Exactly. It prevents things from piling up, and it keeps your space feeling more organized.
I like that. What other rules does he recommend?
He also talks about the importance of a nightly reset.
A nightly reset. We talked about that before.
Yeah, taking a few minutes each evening to tidy up and prepare for the next day.
I can see how that would make mornings less stressful.
Absolutely. And then there's the have a home rule.
Right, where everything has its designated place.
Exactly. It makes cleaning up so much easier.
So it's all about being intentional and creating systems that work for you.
Exactly. And remember, these aren't rigid rules. It's about finding what works for you and adapting them to fit your own lifestyle.
Right. So minimalism really is a journey.
It is. It's an ongoing process of refining and adapting.
And the goal isn't to achieve some perfect state of minimalism. It's about creating a life that you love.
A life that feels aligned with your values and priorities.
And as we've seen, it can lead to more time, more freedom, even more money.
But most importantly, it can lead to a deeper sense of contentment and satisfaction.
Because at the end of the day, minimalism is about freedom.
Freedom from the things that weigh us down. Freedom to focus on what truly matters.
But how do we actually get there? How do we take all of this information and turn it into action?
That's what we'll be diving into in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive on minimalism. You know, through all these different sources we've been looking at, one thing keeps coming up for me, and that's like intentionality.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's not just about having less stuff.
Right.
It's about being really conscious about what you let into your life, those stuff, but also, everything.
And I think Gabe's other people rule kind of highlights that, right? Like, why are we buying all this stuff? Is it because we're trying to impress someone or keep up with the Joneses? Or are we actually buying things because we need and value them?
Yeah, that comparison trap can be sneaky. It's easy to get caught up in wanting what others have. But minimalism's all about asking yourself, what do I truly value? What brings me joy? And then, making room for those things.
So once you've figured that out, the next step is kind of aligning your actions with those values, right? So that could be decluttering your wardrobe, downsizing your home, or even like taking a look at your career, Is it still a good fit for who you are now?
It can be a pretty powerful process, aligning your actions with your values. That's where the magic happens. And I think it's important to remember that minimalism is not about deprivation. It's about creating space for the things that truly matter.
Right. It's about having space for experiences, for connecting with people, for personal growth, all those things you can't buy.
And as we've seen in these videos, simplifying your life can actually free up a lot of stuff. Time, mental energy, even money.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. But for someone who's listening and thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I actually get started? What would you say?
Remember earlier when we talked about finding that one area of your life where you feel that pull of more, the strongest?
Right. Like my closet's overflowing, or my inbox is a disaster, or I'm always overscheduled.
Exactly. Well, I think that's the perfect place to start. We challenge you for the next week, focus on just one of those areas.
Right.
And instead of more, try shifting your mindset to enough and see what happens. What do you notice? How does it feel?
I love that because even a small change can create this ripple effect, right? It might inspire you to simplify other areas of your life too and create more space for the things that truly matter.
And I think you'll be surprised by how much of a positive impact even that one small change can make. This could be the start of a whole new way of living, more mindfully, more intentionally, and more in alignment with who you are and what you truly value.
That's a great place to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into minimalism.
And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress. Even small steps can lead to big changes. So keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep creating the life you love.